Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, it's Leslie and Cassie here with Power Women of the Trades podcast, and we're so excited. We have Lori Stickling here with Covenant Plumbing. Lori, how are you?
Great, ladies. It's really exciting to be here.
Well, we're so excited to have you. Why don't you give everyone just a little recap of your story? I know you are an owner, plumbing only, just like me. We've kind of connected about this and with your husband. So give us the rundown.
Yeah, it was super fun to see you in person, Leslie, and get to know you because I heard some podcasts and I was like, this girl is living my life and I want to know her.
It's a unique life.
Yes, it's so exciting. But my husband, Delane, and I have been in business together for 15 years. About 3 years ago, we started down the residential service path. So I kind of like to think that we've been in business for real for 3 years. And we have 3 children together. We live in a house in the country and we have animals. So I recognize and resonate with you, Cassie, in that. And we just are running our business. We have grown about 40% a year since we started doing service business.
That's
so
awesome.
We have 10 employees. We've kind of struggled this year up and down with people. So we're always learning. We're always trying to do better. And it's super exciting to be part of a conversation like you guys are starting with women in the trades.
We're excited. Where did you say you're from? Illinois?
Well, we're from Central Illinois.
Okay.
Yep, Bloomington, Illinois.
Did you guys start out in new construction? Plumbing?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I knew that. I just wanted to. So you did that for a while, like over 10 years.
We did.
And then you, okay, I always am interested to hear this. I know for us it was rock bottom that led us to service. We didn't have choice. What was it for you?
For us, it was, and actually, I mean, part of my story is I was in corporate America and my husband decided to start this business. So actually, he started in lawn irrigation and then started to do plumbing. And then in 2015, we sold the lawn irrigation division because it just was not a fun business to have in the summer, very demanding, hard to staff. If you think any of our trades are hard to staff, that was even worse.
Really?
So we did new construction then. What really led, I was just tired of not really knowing what I was doing or, how we were doing. We always set these goals, like we're going to grow by this much, but we never could. And I was starting to look at going back to work. State Farm is headquartered here in Bloomington, Illinois, and that's where I had worked before as an analyst. And I was just going to go back and get on my career path again because I had sidestepped it to help my husband and to raise babies. What was interesting as I started thinking about that was like, why would I do that? We have a business here. This is such a huge opportunity. What can we do then what can I do to make this actually work for us? And so that was where I started finding information about being in the service portion of the trades and how it might be more profitable. We happened upon Service Nation Alliance, and that was kind of where we got started down the path. We joined Service Nation Alliance in 2018. 2019, we're totally done doing any service plumbing. We do like small remodels now, but mostly it's all service and replacement.
So in 2019, you were done with new construction. Right? Is that what you said?
2019.
That's so similar to, I think ours was 2018. I can't remember. I remember when we made the decision, we cut all of our builders at once, and we were like mid-phase. We were done. I mean, we were done, done, and we burned the ships. Mm-hmm. And one of those builders was my dad and a really good friend. And I was like, we were done with that phase, but we didn't finish the house. Mm-hmm. Meaning if we had just done the top out, we weren't doing the final. We finished anything actively that we were turning a wrench on, but if the next phase came, we didn't do it. And I remember that being such a pivotal moment when we made that break. It was like, we are done with this life, and we're putting everything we can into it. And then thinking, and I don't know if it was this way for your husband, but my husband, you could have never told him he would be a service plumber. Mm-hmm. He would talk about them at the part house. You know, he was new construction. You know what I mean?
So we have a very similar story, but in HVAC. We were doing a lot of new construction. And I think a lot of people who are just starting out think that that's the way to go, because it's like, oh, well, they just promised me 20 houses and that's this much money. And then they promised 30 houses. And it's like that drug that you keep chasing the drug because they're telling you that, but you're making no money. You're chasing money. And there's so many things there. But I think that really brings us into like what we were talking about before we went live. Why did we all make the jump from that? We're talking about keeping the value of our industry, bringing the value of our industry, showing the value and not backing off of our value. And it's hard to show your value in new construction because you are being undercut left and right. Your value doesn't matter. But the second something goes wrong, they certainly expect you to be all of those things that you should have been, or we could have quoted it at or done whatever. And so,
are you guys
trauma.
Are you happier where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's just a better run business. And we have the thing about service versus new construction. I think new construction is a much easier business to run in so many ways, because you just have, you're going and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you don't have a lot of marketing needs. You don't have a lot of customer service needs. So there's a lot of things that you start to add when you go from new construction to service. There's a lot of customer service aspects. You're dealing with a lot more people. You're dealing with many more customers. You're
the general public.
Guys. Yep. The general public. Trying to get the phone to ring, trying to keep your vans rolling, all of that. But the ability to charge more, like you guys are saying, every time you bid a job, it was like, well, I'm going to have someone else bid this and see where they're at, just to make sure you guys are priced right, And now you can really say, all right, this is our price. And sometimes it's like it or leave it, you know. Sure. But what I had started down the road with earlier before we started was, I feel this strong desire just to help people understand their value. I think there are so many customers out there, other businesses in our industry that don't really know how much they're worth, know how to price their services. And it's like, well, the other guy, this customer said they have a water heater change out for $1,200. So I need to do mine for $1,200 too. And not understanding that's what goes into the work that you're doing. And what do you need to price it at? When customers call and complain about your prices, how do we increase the value of our industry to our customers too? Right. So that they understand, we're not going to be an industry, or we used to be, maybe it was $50 an hour 20 years ago, but it can't be anymore. Life has changed, right? It's hard to find employees. Insurance is crazy. We all know this, but how do we spread that message?
I always love the conversation that, we all see it on Facebook. I need a recommendation for the cheapest and best plumber
that won't break the bank or cost an arm and a leg.
And you're like,
I see that on all of my Facebook
please
groups.
Respectfully don't tag us,
Yes.
But what cracks me up about that is most often those same people who are saying your price is too high, you are robbing people, you are doing this, are normally also the same people that are saying minimum wage should be $24 an hour and people need to make more and you need to pay them more and you need to do this. And it's like, buddy, we're trying. But to do those things, we have to charge everything. All of it comes from somewhere. I tried to explain that once to a customer, and she said, "So you're telling me it's my job to pay your employees?"
Yes.
I thought,
just the same way when you go to Walmart and buy a can of beans, you're paying their employees,
yes,
their
ma'am,
insurance, their
I'm
quality
saying.
control, their marketing, and everything else.
I literally my mouth drop. Yeah, that's your job to pay my employee. Where do you think there's not a money tree in the backyard?
Yeah.
And so for us to bring value back to the services to make plumbing and HVAC sexy again, as Leslie always says, we have to continue to have these conversations with each other, with other contractors, and explain, I'll be honest with you, there are posts of mine when we first started, and they'll come up in my memories and I'll delete it because I'll be like, man, I was an idiot. Just went to this house and another company quoted them this and we were able to do it for this. We were also not making any money, but we didn't know how to price ourselves back then. We were just parts plus a little markup and there was no profit. And then, we covered we made so many stupid mistakes back then that it cracks me up. How did we even survive? Because we paid the people, but we didn't pay us. Mm-hmm. And there's so much that I feel like we need to stop acting like we are the gatekeeping how to run a business and share with these, we all like to call them chucks in a trucks and these all other companies of okay, buddy, but what you're doing is on Christmas Day when they call you because it failed, you're screwing yourself and your family because you don't have a nest egg to make sure that you can cover that recall or these things that we're prepping for now. Mm-hmm. Triggered.
I mean, there's just...
And I don't know. Go ahead, listen.
I was going to say there's so many parts because you said not only educating the other businesses, but then educating the customer. And we've all been there of just not even knowing what our hourly rate was. We had taken on a coach really early on in our business and figured it out. And I remember at that time, after we had done the calculations on the screen, I'm not even going to say what that was. It's probably 3 times less than what it is now. But seeing that, I thought, there's no way. We can't do this. Mm-hmm. And I had to overcome that mindset in my head. And so did Brent to say, no, we're worth this because we're a legitimate business. We're employing people. We have insurance. We were paying for marketing. But it's a cultural thing that's changing in the trades where these guys learned from granddad, uncle, big brother, and they worked their bodies to death to run as many calls as they could to turn and burn. And it was a mentality you have to break with inside the group and then society. So it's really a 2-part equation.
Yeah. And it, like I was saying earlier, doctors, you don't go to a doctor and say, what's your hourly rate?
Yeah.
I saw a customer who kind of gave us a hard time about some pricing. Recently, I'm actually friends with them on Facebook, and they went to Taylor Swift. And I just thought, okay, that's so funny. There's the value proposition, right? You saw the value in going to Taylor Swift because her tickets are not cheap, but people love to go see her and it's a whole experience, right? So that was worth it for them.
Right.
But my plumbing service wasn't. To change out an ejector pump, it's gross.
Yeah.
And it's dirty and disgusting.
Right.
And that to them, we charge too much.
Right.
So,
well, and
You're so
do you
right.
realize that our employees are wading through your poop?
Yeah.
Or our employees are laying under your evaporator
house.
coil, cleaning out your skin cells off of it, or taking out your filters. You know what I mean? It's just when you really realize what we do, oh my God, it's so gross. Like sometimes I have a son, so I have we have 3 kids that work for us, and 2 are in HVAC and 1's in plumbing. And so I know more about HVAC because Oscar, that's how our business started, and Oscar was in HVAC. And so I just know more. But the one that's in plumbing, I'm learning a lot more now. But like we were having an issue with like in our new house, we were having like flies, and I couldn't understand where the flies were coming from.
What, they're coming from your drains?
They were coming from my plumbing kid who's working in his boots that he was leaving, and it's just like creating, you know what I mean? And it's nasty. But that kid that plumber that's at your house, that same kid, he came to me and he said, Mom, I'm really thankful for the job, and I'm thankful to be able to learn to be a plumber, but I will never get over the fact of working on someone's sewer and a turd goes floating by me. Because it's like, hey, newsflash, if someone's out there working on your sewer, maybe we shouldn't use the bathroom, but we do those things. But then the second they walk in there to collect payment, they're beneath you and they're charging you too much. All meanwhile, messing with human waste. Like it just, that blows my mind.
Well, and we even have situations now that if there's a job that is that bad, I will not subject my guys to it. And they need to call a special company that can contain the biological organism that they've created because they waited 2 months to call a plumber. And if like I don't ever take that for granted, and Brent is really like, if I wouldn't do this job, I'm not going to ask my guys to do it. I don't care if we lose money. I don't care if they call our competition.
Sad about that is we had an employee who we saw, we use ServiceTitan and we get the text message when something goes through. And I like to jump in and kind of see what they're about to be up against. And we had an employee sell a toilet repair. And whenever the pictures came up, it was immediately
like, you're not touching that.
You're not touching this. And he says, and he was a newer plumber to us, and he said, well, at my previous company, that wouldn't have been an option. And I'm like, bro, no, like we will absolutely walk away. And that is a rewarding feeling, being able to say that's not our customer.
Right.
But not everyone has the goal to do that. But I think that still goes back into the value. Like, no, like we have really good employees and we want to keep them, and forcing them to do something like that is not the way to keep them.
Right.
But we know our value.
And it takes years to learn the trade that these guys are doing for a lot of them to go out and really troubleshoot some of the more expensive repairs. It takes someone a long time to learn that, but that's not valued like a college education is. And so that's another thing that I really want our guys to feel their value. Like a lot of the guys that go into the trades, and girls, but people that don't love college education, they weren't great classroom learners. And so they went into the trades, and I think they've always felt like second-rate citizens. And so they don't recognize the value of their skills and who they are. So I just have a big soapbox about that too, where just because you don't have a fancy college education does not mean that you can't charge as much as someone
Plumbing
does.
is a huge piece of our life. So,
that's when they say the health conditions really changed, is when we were able to control the water and the waste coming in and out of our homes, and when disease stopped spreading.
We had our coach at our office and a few weeks ago, and he was speaking to all of our technicians, and something he said to them was, you stop telling yourself you are just a technician. You are just a plumber. You are just this. Because if the world if America, right? Not all these other countries. Yeah. If America lost all water, 80% of our population would be dead within 3 weeks. That is insane, right? But you're just a plumber. You're just a plumber, and I don't want to pay you that much because I don't think you're worth it. But if
we can get that part at Home Depot for $5,
and you don't know how to fix it, ma'am,
Well, I don't even know.
She does. She probably does. But yeah, that's exhausting to, or the people that are like, and we all have these war stories, but I need you to be here right now. It's an emergency. And then you get there, and then
They've called 4 other companies to see who could get there faster.
And then now the price comes, and it's like, well, who do you think you are? Well, we're the company that got here as fast as we could to solve your crisis.
And we had someone answer the phone that could dispatch the technician, that paid for the gas, that paid for the truck. Like, it's just, I do think that the tide is turning on that. I think it's just going to take even longer to keep talking about it, because I will say, I feel like I've been in this space of a short time, and the conversation has shifted even since I've been in it, and even in our community, right? We've had several people say, we never would have thought about having our son be a plumber until we saw how you guys presented yourself to the community, because it starts right at the top. Yep. It starts from your social media to your branding to who's answering your phone to how they communicate to the technology you use. All of that plays a part, right? So I do think there's exciting things happening, right? The conversation is changing on the secondary and elementary levels. It's being talked about as an alternative. So that's encouraging.
It is. It's also really, I think it's important for us to continue staying together and being a part of the change, though.
Right.
Showing up to those career events and showing up and showing, I cannot stand when people advertise like butt crack plumbers. Oh, it makes me want to like what? Come on, show some dignity for the trade, or, there's a lot more to that's coming in here. And sometimes it's way more than they were thinking about doing. So what does your day-to-day look like at the office?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I've been working the hardest on in day-to-day is to become more of a leader in our company. So mostly I have this weird hybrid position for us. We're still a fairly small company, but I do our marketing for the most part and our financial. And that's a yin and yang, but
it's like the opposite sides of your brain too.
Yeah, and that's exactly my position and Leslie's.
Well, I know. Right? I don't even know what to say my position is.
I know. Everyone, it's like, so what do you do at Quality every day? And I'm like, a lot of it, like not all of it. There's a lot, but like, what is my position? I don't know.
Well, and talk about, we've talked about
troubleshooting.
Yeah. There you go. So I know we've privately talked about this, but share what you want or what you can just about the challenges of working with a spouse who probably operates completely different than you do, right?
Yeah, and actually that's been an interesting challenge in the 3 years that we've really been growing and trying to become a different level company. That's been a big challenge for us. So we've kind of transitioned into this role where I am taking on the leadership role, or the CEO, and he is our service manager, operations manager. And so that's been an interesting change. We've gotten some help with that, just coaching through some of that and learning to, this is our hat. I have a hat that's a wife hat. And right now, this is my CEO hat that we're talking about.
Right.
I am not your wife talking. So that's helped a lot, just to understand some of that. As organizing, he and I both are pretty much ADHD. Like, we aren't very organized with our time. So we've been really working on that. Leslie, that's how I met you, actually, was just hearing you say that in a Lady Titans meeting. I think at one point you had worked with someone, and I started a D, and I started working with a D for a while, and I love all that she helped me with.
Okay, that's so funny. I was on her podcast last Monday, and I started thinking, because I knew you were coming up, one of the first conversations you and I had, which is really funny because I had never met you, and we talked, and I was like, look, this is really hard to work with my husband. There is a season where we could only communicate by work through ClickUp, which was task managed. I don't know if you ever got on ClickUp, which was task management. That was the only way. in that season, we could talk to each other about work. We would have to assign tasks and reply to that. And then we would do our executive meeting once a week. And she was on those meetings because that's how stressful that season was. And I remember telling you that. I remember walking outside, having a conversation with you because I had posted something. But in that moment, and what led me to post that was that software had like saved my life during that season, because we were in a really like, just, you know how it is. You work with your spouse and it can be volatile at times, especially if you're both alpha males, which I joke about. But we had these roles and both were equally as important. And Adi was like such a lifesaver to me. But I did get to just talk to her on Monday, and it made me think about that first conversation. I didn't even know you, and I was like, look, I don't know about you, but this is really hard, and this helped me. And it was a software that we used at that time.
Totally. And it was how I started listening to podcasts. I'm like, this girl, I've got to get to know her. So I'm so grateful.
I think
here we are.
That conversation, though, always cracks me up when someone's like, so how do you work with your husband? And
you never know what you're going to get.
You never know
I
what
really
you're
like
gonna
to
get.
open that can of worms, when
know.
I can.
For me, though, like, I think that you have to figure out your correct boundaries. Because for us, we're too busy in the day. So I was one time at this meeting and someone was like, we have hard rules about what we talk about at home and what we don't. We can't, Oscar and Cassie Pound cannot have those rules because that would not work for us. It might work for you and it may be great for your family, but it's not for us because we're too busy doing different things during the day that when we get home, we want to decompress with each other about what we went through in the day. And like, we always remind, like, if he worked for someone else and I worked for someone else, we would get off at 5, come home and talk about what we went through today. So we don't, if we say, oh, we're not allowed to talk about this because we're at home, that doesn't work for us. Because I'll be like 7:30 on the couch, like, oh, hey, I needed to tell you this. If in my brain, I wasn't allowed to speak about that to you till tomorrow, that doesn't work. Now, I have some friends that is the only way their relationship's going to maintain. So I think it's like a loaded question.
But it changes. So that at that period of time, we couldn't. It's not the case now. You go in different seasons of your business because you're in different phases. You're in a building phase, you're in like a stabilization phase or whatever. You go through tragedy, all of that changes. But when you are in it with your spouse, it is easy to get lost in that business and forget who you are.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, but it is a fun topic that I like, but that was one of the first things.
It's a lot of pressure too when people like
talk about
want to come for advice to me or you, we've talked about like, someone's like, please tell me how to fix this. I'm like, I'm
like, here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Don't
anything.
Don't do it.
Like, we don't know. We do not know.
So, Lori, you said earlier one of the things you were really working on this year was learning to be a leader. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah. One of the things that I have found the most interesting is as we've grown this business, it's like, oh, someone's got to take the reins and kind of lead the charge, if you will, whatever. And I had realized that I was coming from a world where it's like I was an analyst, so I was pretty analytical in what I was doing. I wasn't great at deciding where we're going to go and how we're going to get there type work. And so learning to be a leader has been really what I've been working on most the last year and a half or 2 years. So John Maxwell has a leadership book that I've worked through in it was a mastermind group that I did. And that was kind of the start for me. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from that was like lifting your lid and how much do we need to know? We can only reach the lid. We're only going to grow to where we are. So it's always learning to do more, to be more, to raise our levels of knowledge. So for me, in the role I am, it's a lot of financial learning. So KPIs, always learning to do better at recognizing our numbers. How do we look at the numbers, interpret them, and then what are we going to do with that? How are we going to fix the problem, or how do we get better?
So do you like
processes.
do you like the details, or you prefer not to deal with the details and look at the whole picture? Because you were an analyst, so do you tend to like to look at the details?
I am a weird person because I really love big picture,
Right.
and I can work in the details, not for forever, for an hour a day maybe.
I gotcha.
I am not. I get very, but I can get detailed, and some people can't do big picture and detail.
You're a unicorn, is what you are. That you can do both.
I don't know. But I don't love detail, and I don't love finishing things. So there's that. I don't, I'm a starter, I'm an idea person.
I always say that I am the visionary, and I can help you with the vision, but I'm not the implementer because I have too much ADHD, and I will not be able to follow the details. Like Kaylee is our marketing manager, and she also helps us with the podcast. So she travels up here with me, and she is very detail oriented. She has a spreadsheet for a spreadsheet, and she makes sure of all of her things, and her ducks are in a row, and she'll come in, and sometimes she has to she knows that if I'm busy and she needs me, she's just got to force herself to in there and say, I need to talk to you. But she'll hit me with things sometimes, and I'm like, thank God she remembered that,
right?
Because it was still, she helped me.
That is such an important role.
Honestly, you have to have someone on your team that can help with those.
Critical.
Yeah.
When you're not that way.
When you're not that way, you have to have someone on your team. But what I will say about that is it took a long time for Cassie to recognize that I was not the implementer, because I wanted to be the hero and do all the things. And then I would have this wonderful idea, and then it would never go anywhere because I couldn't implement it, because I physically, mentally not capable, because my brain is already to the next step after that one. And so I cannot be the implementer, but I was not willing to say, I can't do that, because I'm supposed to be able to do everything. And so you have to be able to have some self-reflection and say, actually, I suck at that.
Well, you have to that's part of leading, right? Like recognizing who you need to help you do the things that you're not able to do, or that you don't do well. And really, should you be doing those things? Because I'm the type of person that I like to pick things up and learn how to do them. And then if the next person, if I'm passing it off, if they don't do it well, I'm like, I'll just take it back. It's fine. Yes. It doesn't take me that long. I'll just do it. So that it's in leadership, you have to coach, you have to mentor, you have to teach and pass on your responsibilities, right? So
what have you been able to pass on that has been like a huge sigh of relief for you as you've grown?
Processes and procedures.
Yep.
HR.
Oh gosh, yes.
I love HR. I don't know if you just have someone in-house, but I have Ian, and my favorite thing ever to say is, I don't know, ask Ian. I don't know. Whatever Ian says.
Right.
Because it is, I come from an HR background. Like, that was what I did. But when it's your company and everyone's expecting you to react emotionally, and I used to. Now my favorite thing is whatever Ian suggests, that's what we need to do. It's whatever Ian thinks.
Yes.
It's so easy. Do you love that? And he will, if you don't know this or whatever, but if you have a conflict that you need a resolution with, but you need that third party, he will zoom in and handle it. And that is perfect.
That sometimes you need that.
You need that zoom in,
because
he keeps you like, no, that's incorrect, or yes, or whatever. But so HR, I feel like I want to high five you getting
what is your next
off your
thing?
plate.
What is the next thing you're going to pass on as soon as you can?
Payroll.
Oh,
Lord, are you still doing payroll?
I had to take payroll back on when our service manager passed a couple months ago. But I'm in the process. Well, we've completely changed our model, so I would have had to taken it back on anyways. I'm building out something that it will be very streamlined. So But
It's rough.
I would love
know
to
it-
talk to you about that sometime.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Payroll's a big deal. And it's funny. I used to have it in my calendar. I'm really weird about my Google Calendar. I want it to be organized, but as soon as there's too many things on it, I just totally shut down and start deleting them. It makes no sense what I do. But I used to have it in my calendar on Monday. I had to have it done by 5 o'clock on Monday so it could be submitted by Wednesday at 6 to be deposited Friday. And I create all these like rigid rules about this. Well, now it is, I changed my plan so I can submit it up to like 6 o'clock on Thursday and it still deposits Friday. And it is like, you would think I just gained two days during the week by just like allowing myself to do that. And it was like $10 more a month on my guest stove. It was just something so insignificant, but payroll is such a thing.
It's rough.
It is such a thing. And especially as you have like different, like we have definitely different phases in our plumbing, like production, there's different pay per department. It can be really rough. You can automate it and automate it and automate it and automate it, but still somebody's got to be looking over that. You know what I mean?
And if you are doing any sort of performance pay, it just adds that layer of
Oh yeah.
craziness.
The biggest thing that's helped us is we put everything, and not everyone's going to do it. And we had to test it and test it and test it and test it. But now everybody is calculated in Service Titan. And then their managers approve it. They approve their time. The managers approve their time. And then it goes to payroll, to accounting, and she handles it. But it has saved so much, because used to, this person would have to do this and then export it. And then they would have to calculate and do all this. And oh my gosh, I was like, we've got to fix it. We've got to fix it. And now, so we just made our pay plan to where it was something, because there was a few things that was like, well, that wasn't trackable. That's not trackable in Service Titan. So we just changed our pay plan to be something that was Service Titan was capable of tracking. Now our guys love it and it's great. And they also love that in Service Titan, they can see it like live, So, but, payroll.
Yeah. It's always a thing. So payroll's the next thing that you're going to pass off.
Yes. Are you going to hold me to this, Leslie?
When do you think hey, it's accountability, right? I like to put that in my calendar, because it's like, okay, we got to put it in our calendar and then we're going to celebrate it.
Yeah, because if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done.
Right. So our biggest thing is getting our performance pay plan to be something that can be in Service Titan. So working toward that right now. And once I get that, because we do have all of our time in Service Titan. So that's, I take the master pay file, but I a little bit, it's heavy. I have a lot of processes so that we can departmentalize, and that's an issue. And so there's just all of these things.
Oh, girl, we know it. We've started. We made our own departmentalized something that broke everything.
It's hard.
It's like, because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, because someone said plumbing over here is paying this and doing this. And like Leslie and I were talking earlier with someone else, it's like, once you immediately see it and you want to be like, I got to match it, I got to find it. But then you realize there's no way they're paying that like they said they are, because it's not even possible,
No.
They forgot to talk to you about all the deductions they take out of it, or whatever,
gosh.
or something. So
No.
anyways, we really appreciate you hanging out with us today and jumping in. I think you have a lot of information that is so relatable to everyone that's listening. I think probably the most rewarding thing about this podcast so far is like hearing the stories of so many people that are, while sometimes they feel like the same, it's not that it's the same, it's the validation that we're all going through the same things. And we've all had the same struggles, and we've all had the same wins and the same losses sometimes, but it's all worth it. So
we need to try to connect when we're in Phoenix.
Yes, I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me know.
Yeah.
We're going to be at Pantheon too. So
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to miss that one.
Yeah.
You're going to miss
I'm
it.
going to
Okay.
Disney. It's funny because I will be in the same area, but at Disney World.
Oh, fun.
Thrilled. So excited about Disney World.
That will be
My
fun.
kids are excited, but it's just like I can already feel the anxiety.
Yeah. A lot of people in that park.
I don't mind people and hanging out in big crowds if I'm getting to drink.
Well, wow. Okay.
Respectfully.
I
Because I
mean-
can like hang out and I can be a good time.
Yeah.
I'll just put it all out there. But then if it's like big crowds and I love my kids, but then I'm like, someone's going to steal my kid.
Yeah.
And I just start like, worst case.
No, yeah. You gotta be ready at Disney World.
I know. I'm probably going to get like leashes.
Honestly, I understand that.
My daughter's 7 and my son's 14. That's not going to work out. But they're going to be like, are you kidding me? The world's crazy. I always tell. I have Haley freaking out right now because I've like was trying to teach her, when the Amber Alert goes off, I was trying to teach her what that meant. And so now every time it goes off, she was like, someone just got stolen. And I'm like, okay.
It is so startling.
But
when
it's
goes
like, and you
off.
panic. And so now I've got to
Because
freak
like
out.
100 devices go off wherever you are.
Yeah. And we only have iPhones, so that noise, like you can feel it, right? Anyways, Lori, we really appreciate you, and we can't wait let's catch up for sure in Phoenix.
Yes.
That sounds great. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yes,
I love
thank
what you're doing here.
you.
It's so fun. It's so great. I love listening to it every week when they come out.
Awesome. You're
Thank
so
you.
sweet. Thank you.
So, okay. Well, I look forward to seeing you guys in person.
Yay!
Yes, for
We're going
sure.
to do it.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review on Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.